Hello crafters, this is Yana Smakula for SimonsSTM.com. Welcome back for another EP for Yana episode. All supplies I'm using for these cards are listed and linked in the video description below. Today I'm creating several Christmas cards with the Simons Says stamp Trees and Stars stamp set. This is a fun set with several bold graphic Christmas tree images, and there are 6 designs to choose from, each sized perfectly for an A2 card. Now I really like the tree with the different sized dots, and that's the one I'll be using in this video to make my Christmas cards. I already have one card idea on my work surface. It is done in my signature dark colors, but I also have other color combos for you to try. Here's one, for example, done on white cardstock for a much lighter and brighter look. Now, I also have another Christmas tree that I tried making using this stamp set, but I didn't finish it. I didn't turn it into a card, but I still wanted to show it here. So I used the image with the thin lines, I heat embossed it in gold embossing powder, and I added 2-tone ink blending, and then I cut it out using a coordinating die. And by the way, this set has coordinating dies to cut the tree, cut the stars, and then cut the different sentiments. So let's go ahead and get started on these cards. I prepared several cardstock panels. Now these are all cut to 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. I will later trim them to 3 3/4 inches by 5 inches. Although I think that the 4 by 5 1/4 inches is a better cut, especially if you want to add the gold embossing around the edges. If you add the gold embossing around the edges of a panel that's cut to 3 3/4 by 5 inches, that looks a little bit too, I don't know, it looks odd. But if you do not plan to add any embossing to the edges, the 3 3/4 inches by 5 inches is a good cut. I have my mini MISTI stamping tool, and I have a grip mat inside my MISTI. I have taken the black foam pad out of my MISTI and replaced it with this grip mat from Waffle flour. And I love using this mat as it holds my paper in place, and I no longer need to use my magnet. I use the Simons Says stamp anti-static powder tool to prep the paper for heat embossing. And next I've inked up the stamp, and I already have the tree stamp and the sentiment stamp positioned on the door of my MISTI, and I've inked both up using the clear embossing ink, and I've stamped that onto my panel. I do so several times. I stamp the images several times to make sure I have a good impression. Next, it is time to add the embossing powder, and I'm using my go-to. This is the Simons Says stamp Antique Gold embossing powder. You can use any color embossing powder you like, and the color of the powder will make the color of your ornaments. So let me explain. To me, this Christmas tree consists of various size circles arranged in a tall triangle, and they create the illusion of a Christmas tree. To me, these circles look like ornaments. They can also look like Christmas lights on a Christmas tree, or like ornaments. So you can use any color embossing powder if you are heat embossing on colored cardstock, or any color of ink if you are stamping on white cardstock for these circles. I used green ink because I kind of wanted the green to represent the greenery of the Christmas tree. So in that particular case, the green circles are not the Christmas tree lights. They're not the Christmas tree ornaments. They basically create the shape of the tree. I heat embossed my panels all using the same antique gold embossing powder, and here I have the green apple, the midnight green, and the Audrey blue panels. I'm going to add ink blending to each panel to darken the edges and keep the center lightest. I did not add any ink blending to the white panel with the green stamping, as that looked beautiful as is. Adding ink blending to the heat embossed panels helps pull the eye of the viewer to the center of the panel where our beautiful Christmas tree is embossed. Now, I'm ink blending with a PEARFECTION ink right now, and I will also add some pine ink blending later to darken the edges of this panel even more. And I'm using the large Simons Says stamp blending brush for my ink blending, and I absolutely love these brushes. They pick up and transfer so much ink, and the blending is just effortless when you use them. Next, the Audrey blue panel is ink blended with the ocean ink, and by the way, all of these are the Simons Says stamp Pawsitively saturated inks. I love to use them for stamping and ink blending, and the colors of these are just amazing. Now the darker green panel is ink blended with black. No other ink color makes any difference here as this cardstock is so dark, and I can only ink blend with black to darken the edges. And this is the Tsukineko VersaFine Onyx Black. And here I'm using the Spellbinders blending brush as I have this blending brush dedicated to this particular ink color. Next, if you want to add gold edges to your cardstock, use the embossing ink pad and rub the edge of your panel across the pad. Now, do keep in mind that this will cause the ink from your ink blended panel to transfer onto the pad. So best not to use your main clear embossing ink pad for this, as it will make it dirty. Maybe you have a backup embossing ink pad just for techniques like this, so best to use that ink pad. And then add some embossing powder to a piece of scrap paper and dab your panel into that powder as if you were dabbing it into paint. Now, if you get too much embossing powder on the panel, you can use a dry paintbrush and remove some of it and keep just the right amount of powder there. So you have a lot of control here. Now, I love to use this trick to add a frame to my cards, and it adds a nice finishing touch. It does not always work. Sometimes it is a miss, but if I'm working with dark colors of cardstock, this works beautifully. It works especially beautiful with this dark green and also dark blue. So use your heat tool and heat set the powder to melt it. Now, I only added the gold embossed frame to my dark green cards, as like I said, it works best with dark colors of cardstock. Next, I used fun foam in black and white, depending on the color of the panel that I was adhering and depending on the color of the card base. And I used the foam to pop the embossed panels onto my card bases. Here, I used black fun foam and I adhered it to the dark green card base to keep things tone on tone. Now, I like to use my magnets to help hold things down while the glue is drying. It is super helpful for me, and for me, it works better than using a stack of clear blocks. With that done, it is time to decorate our tree. Now, the beauty of this stamp set is that it creates a base of your tree. So you can use that base to decorate your tree with other supplies that you have in your stash. So think about all of these embellishments that you have and how you can incorporate those into your tree. I have these beautiful enamel dots from Spellbinders. I have them in all sorts of different colors, and I thought it would be fun to make my trees all different colors. Since I'm already using the different color panels, I thought it would also be fun to use the different color ornaments. Now, these come in two shades, a lighter and a darker shade in each pack, so they make beautiful little Christmas tree ornaments. I really like to go all out and add a ton of these. That's how I decorate my Christmas trees. I decorate with a ton of ornaments. And so that's something that I really try to replicate on my cards. In addition to the enamel dots, I brought some sequins, and these are aura sequins, also from Spellbinders. And I'm using the Simon Says Stamp embellishment wand to pick up the sequins and position them on my tree. Now, I still have some gaps, so the sequins fill those gaps in nicely. I used my Barely Art glue to adhere the sequins in place. Now, because that wasn't enough either, I also used a white pen and I added white dots to fill in even more, and I love the results. So you can add as many or as few embellishments as you want, and we all know that we all have a ton of different embellishments in our stash, so this is a good excuse to play with all of those different embellishments and finally use them on our cards. Here, I did the same for the teal card, but I switched the colors that I was using to pinks. I really love the teal and pink color combination for Christmas, although I've never done a teal and pink Christmas tree. I have done green and pink, and that looks gorgeous, but never teal and pink. This is something that I'm yet to try in real life. As I was adding sequins to the green card, I made a big boo-boo, and I accidentally added a big drop of glue where it was not supposed to be. And even though I cleaned that glue as best as I could, you could still see the mark from the glue on my paper. So I thought about different ways I could hide that glue, and I decided to add snow to this card. I Wasn't really able to add any more sequins because that really would have been way over the top. So snow it is. I used white acrylic paint, and any white acrylic paint will do for this. I diluted a little bit of paint with water, and then I used a brush to add spatter to my card. Now, I did cover the tree with a piece of scrap paper as I did not want any spatter on the tree, just on the background, and I added a ridiculous amount of spatter. I think I took good 5 minutes adding the spatter here, making sure that I have a good amount of snow. Now, I also did a different sentiment here. I had one sentiment on my desk that was already created. It was foiled in gold foil on red cardstock, and I thought that it would work beautifully here with a green background and then the red ornaments. And so I used a foam adhesive strip to pop that sentiment onto my card in place of that heat embossed sentiment. This sentiment was done using the Spellbinders Better Press plates. But instead of pressing the plates, I used my Glimmer Hot Foil system and I foiled the plates. And you can do that. You can foil with your Better Press plates, but you cannot press with your foil plates. So here is a look at the cards that I have for you today, created with the Simon Says stamp, Trees and Stars stamp set. And you can see all of the different color variations and all of the different ornaments that I have for you today. Thanks so much for spending time with me today. Love you guys, and I'll see you next time.
Hi there, I'm Heidi, Simon's mama and founder at simonsaysstamp.com. Thank you so much for watching our video. If you like what you just saw, be sure to press the thumbs up and subscribe to see more great content.